Hi everyone, I'm Martin and welcome to Astronomy for Beginners. Now, there's something that I haven't really covered yet, and I should really do, because it's actually quite an important one, this one. Now, I've covered a lot of topics on basically a lot of telescopes, equipment, imaging, and some basics of astronomy. The one thing I have missed, and it's really, you see, with astronomy, a lot of guys who want to start off with astronomy, it can be quite an expensive hobby, and for those people that are just barely going to just look into astronomy and start a bit of stargazing, for example, or just look at the moon, maybe a few planets or something that's really basic to start off with, probably find that for most of the guys, most of us, it's usually right, looking at telescopes, it's a lot of money. I mean, some people haven't even got the budget for that. Now, my best advice to the guys who are just basically just touching on towards astronomy and just basically have a look is you just can't go wrong in buying a decent pair of binoculars like these. Alright, here's a decent pair of binoculars. Now, believe it or not, binoculars is probably the best buy you can ever purchase, even when you're not into astronomy. Say if you did try and start astronomy and it wasn't a hobby for you, the government binoculars, you can use it for other things like bird watching and just general viewing of casual objects, terrestrial objects. So in a way, they sort of like pay for themselves. So even if you're not going to use it for astronomy, you can use it for something else. Now, I would seriously recommend buying binoculars in the first place anyway, as a first time buyer. Now, I started off astronomy when I was a young lad, and these was the best investment I've ever bought, and I've had these for some time now, and believe it or not, you can't go wrong with a decent pair of binoculars. They are basically two small refractors by themselves. That's all they are, a small little refractor. But instead of just one, you've got two. The thing with binoculars is that they are going to be so much better than any cheap telescope. Be wary of buying any cheap telescope that's boosting stupid amount of magnification through something like a 50mm lens or 60mm lens, really cheap quality telescopes. Now, stay away from them, right? The amount of money you pay for something is actually quite rubbish quality. They're not going to show you the decent views that you expected. You always see them. You see them in some of the stores out there in the UK, and they'll boost on the boxes fancy pictures of wonderful galaxies and planets and all that, and they'll show you, they mention about the magnification, what it can do and all that, and a lot of it sells like really cheap eyepieces with it and ball lenses. To be honest with you, keep well away from those telescopes. Save your money, right? If you're on a limited budget, save your money, alright, and buy yourself some of these, right? You can buy a decent pair of binoculars, and a lot of the brands out there, it doesn't really matter what brand you get, a lot of the binoculars are quite good quality, and for the price, you just can't go wrong, really. I mean, these, believe it or not, these probably cost me about £30, maybe £40, and again, it sounds a lot of money. Some people don't have a lot, but if that's a lot of money, then you can always go to a second-hand shop and have a look what's in there and get some really good pair of binoculars, and you'd be surprised what you can find in these second-hand shops, and you can really purchase some really good binoculars from there. But believe me, these are probably the best investment. If you want to start out astronomy, right, get yourself a pair of these, right, and basically you just can't grumble. And if you're not interested in astronomy and you don't want to take the hobby seriously, then by all means you're still not wasting your money. You've still got a decent pair of binoculars that you can use for something else. Now what we're going to do is now, I'm going to give you a close in depth on the binoculars itself, right? And I'll give you sort of recommendations, what to look out for, what to expect, and other hints and tips that will make observing with binoculars, especially for astronomy, much more appealing. Believe it or not, binoculars, despite their limited aperture, can actually reveal you a lot of detail. And because you're using both eyes to capture the light, which means if you're focused on an object with both eyes, you indeed actually collect more light. And you can actually see a lot of detail with just even a pair of binoculars like these. These are 9x50s, which I will explain later what that means. But with these pair of binoculars, you can see the craters and the valleys on the moon. You will see amazing detail on the lunar landscape. Also, for the planets, you'll be able to see Jupiter. You won't be able to see the broad banding of Jupiter, but that depends on what binoculars you've got. But you'll see obviously the Jupiter itself, the disk, and you'll see the 4 Galilean moons. On Saturn, you might be able to distinguish the rings on Saturn and maybe 1 or 2 moons on Saturn. Again, you'll be able to see Mars, an orange disk, or you can see the phases of Venus with this, you know. And plus, binoculars, even with this modest kit, you can still view galaxies like the Andromeda galaxies with a pair of binoculars. You can see a huge amount of detail. You know, Hercules, great globular clusters. You can see a fountain of detail. It's just the only thing you've got to be aware is when you're looking for details, you're not going to expect fantastic views, but you know you can see an amazing amount of detail. Even the Great Orion Nebula appears really well on these. But the thing is with details is you've got to invest in something a bit. You're going to look at the objects, but you're going to know how to find these objects, and these objects are a bit because they're limited magnitudes, is that you're going to need some kind of star map or atlas that's going to show you, so you can start hop with these pair of binoculars and find what you're looking at. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go through my pair of binoculars that I use, believe it or not, all the time for astronomy. Even when I'm imaging with my telescopes, I still use a pair of binoculars because they're so handy, because you can be imaging one particular thing, and I'll be using a pair of binoculars to scan the skies and see what object I would like to view next or what to image next. So I usually use a pair of binoculars to scan the skies, plus really good because they've got a wider field of view on them. They're really good for comet hunting or meteor watching. Alright, so they've got a good field of view. So obviously what we're going to do now, I'm going to describe to you closer on the binoculars. Hi there everyone. Right, this is my pair of binoculars. Now, usually when you go and if you're going to buy a set of binoculars yourself and all that, usually you'll find that most binoculars usually come with a case or a soft case or hard case. Now, obviously this is used for storage and to protect the binoculars. Now, some of them have them, some don't. Usually what you consist of is you get a set of binoculars, right, and you usually get dust caps. These dust caps are there just to protect the eye, the eyepieces and the objective lens. Right, I'm just going to describe through these pair that I own. Right, this number here. Now, you usually find that a lot with most binoculars, and a lot of guys who are just first starting out, who wants to buy a pair of binoculars, we're going to ask, what is this number? Now, what this number means is the 10, for example, is basically the magnification. Basically, the magnification is 10 times, it's basically 10 times closer what you're actually going to view. So that is the magnification. So when you're looking at an object, that object is going to be 10 times bigger or closer than if you're looking at it by eye. Now the 50 means it's the objective glass. Now this is really important for astronomy. Now basically this is the diameter of the actual objective lens, right? Don't get confused with both of them add together. No, this is basically each objective lens is the actual diameter of the lens system of the objective glass. Now what you're looking at for astronomy is you're looking for a decent sort of objective lens of around 40 minimum to 70 millimeter objective lens. Alright, now 50 is an ideal sort of size because 50 will give you quite a decent amount of light gathering, is what you need for collecting some of the faint fuzzies and all that you see in the night sky. Now bear in mind that the reason why you can get some that's 60 or 70, maybe 80 or even bigger than that, the only truth is though, the higher that number, it usually means that these binoculars, because of the diameter of the objective, they'll get bigger, which means they'll get heavier because there's more glass, and because if they get heavier, right, it makes it much more difficult for them to get supported by hands. So, and usually it's best to get a decent sort of size binocular that it's not going to be too heavy or sorry for you basically. Now if you're looking for a pair of binoculars, I would seriously go have a look around for second-hand stores, or even if you want to buy a brand new set of binoculars, for example, is go and test them out. Alright, have a look, see if they're not too heavy for you. You know, you want them so that you can carry them by hand. So, because basically with binoculars, you'll be using these a lot if you're looking at the night sky. So you need to keep these held by hand so they're not too heavy. Now, usually they come with a nice little securing strap. I always seriously recommend that if it doesn't have a strap with it, go and get one. Right, because if you drop these, you're not going to damage your investment. Alright, so it's always best to have these neck straps in place all the time. Also to point out is that the binoculars usually they come with a decent coating. Alright, you're looking for some coating that's, you know, it's like light blue. You're looking for some coated or fully multi-coated sort of optics. Stay away from the red coated ones, right? You're not looking for the red coated ones, right? Because usually they introduce internal reflections. Now with these binoculars they tend to give out a lot less internal reflections. Now you're looking for some kind of coating like this in particular. Alright, so stay away from these fangled ones with the multi lenses sort of coatings. Go for the standard multi-coat or fully coated optics. Alright, also pay attention on the numbers here. This number here is this says BK4 glass, so it's a very good quality glass. So there's also different types of glass, but if you get a BK4 one, they usually got really good high quality glass. You know, this, despite these rubber cups being quite bulky, you can actually fold these back. Alright, and for a lot of guys who wear spectacles and all that, right, you can fold these back so that you can actually look through these pair of binoculars and able to you know, wear your glasses at the same time without restricting your view, right? So they're really quite good actually, these pair of binoculars. Another one for that is obviously you've got the focus wheel here, alright. That's also to adjust your image. So whatever you're looking at, you can focus the image through here for this focus wheel. Again, there's this bit here. This is it's like an adjustment for people's eyesight, basically. Now, some people are either left eye dominant or right eye dominant, and usually your eyesight, depending on brighter people's eyesight. Depends on how usually your left might be stronger or your right might be stronger. But basically, what this does is will focus different types of people's eyesight. Now, bear in mind, if you're using a pair of binoculars and someone else borrows your binoculars and they end up using borrowing your binoculars and then look through and then they adjust this, right, to suit obviously the sharpness of their view. Now, bear in mind, you just need to just tweak it down to the setting that you want, that you can see clearly. So also this different sets different people's eyesight. But basically, it's just a plus and minus, right? And then that's what it is. It just to vary people's eyesight. For me, my eyesight is usually where the zero is. I've got normal sort of eyesight. I've got no plus or minus, But most people are usually around that sort of setting anyway. But I'm not going to go too depth in that. Another thing is, now, a lot of people didn't realise that these can also be mounted on a tripod or a camera tripod. Now, this one clips off. There's a little clip here, and there's like a 1/4 thread that you can actually attach it onto a camera tripod or any other form of tripod. All right, and this can fit into a tripod. Now, not really particularly important for these sort of size binoculars because they are relatively light and they only weigh around about, they're not even a kilogram, they weigh about something like 700 grams or something. They're quite light. But for some people who want a lot more light grasp, and obviously bigger objective lenses means more weight, then you're gonna, if you've got like one of those guys who've got massive binoculars, something like 60 or 70 millimeters or more, then you're going to start needing to attach obviously the pair of binoculars onto a form of tripod, and this is where you usually attach it through. And you usually get a bracket that you can buy that screws on there, and it's like a dovetail or a clip or something like that then you can just screw onto and then clip it onto the the tripod. Nice little tip. Some people are completely unaware what that is, but that's basically where most of the attachments are. Now, not all binoculars are like that. Some are very different than others, but they're all virtually more or less the same. Now, again, because they're basically two small refractors close together, they do not lose collimation. They always have a sealed collimation, and they've got relatively low maintenance. All right, so low, in fact, that you don't need to worry about collimation or adjusting. As long as you keep your binoculars, you can just use a camera hair brush, just occasionally, buy yourself one of these lens pens, for example, and you can just occasionally just get off the dust or dirt and all that, and just brushing occasionally. Very now and again, you'll need a lens cleaning solution for these. But again, like with telescopes, is you don't clean them all the time, because what you do is if you clean them all the time, you start scraping off the actual anti-reflection coatings, and you don't want. So obviously clean them when it's needed to clean. So if you've got fingerprints on the objective lens or whatever, basically clean them when it's really needed. But just occasional dust and all that, it doesn't really matter, to honest with you. I mean, binoculars last a lifetime if you look after them. But don't get in the habit of cleaning too obsessively on the objective lens or the eyepiece themselves, right? Because you end up taking off coatings. So just do it when it's really needed the most. But bear in mind, as long as you keep the dust caps on when not in use and all that, it's completely fine. Things about the coatings is the coatings tend to be a lot more durable. More or less on the objective lens as such, you have to be quite careful with them because the coatings are usually delicate. But for the eyepiece, they're usually quite tough anyway, and they last a bit longer. That's due to obviously if you're getting your eyes in there and you get your eyelash on there. So obviously the coatings tend to be a bit stronger at the eye cup ends. But a decent pair of binoculars like these, tip is get a decent size that suits you more than anything, because there's loads of different brands, right? You can get poor quality binoculars and you can get good quality binoculars, but end of the day, regardless what sort of quality you get or build or something like that, they're always going to serve a purpose. Now obviously these are a Mead brand anyway, which is quite a good brand anyway. But believe it or not, I didn't actually buy these. I actually got these free from a telescope, believe it or not. In fact, I got them from my old Mead 125 ETX, believe it or not. And these actually came free with the package, which I was really quite happy. Obviously, the 125 now I've now sold, and now I've got other telescopes. But believe it or not, I've kept these because they're so useful. I thought to myself, well, why get rid of them if they work perfectly? And again, very useful. Now, another point to point out is if you're looking at an object, and you're using a pair of binoculars, don't make the mistake of, if you're looking at the object and then you turn away as if you're going to look at the pair of binoculars, and then as you're trying to find the object looking through the binoculars, get in the habit is actually look at the object and then move the binoculars towards the eye, into your eyes, and then you'll see the object. And a lot of guys, I know it sounds stupid, but a lot of guys who get a pair of binoculars end up, when they see something they like this to look at, next minute they automatically just tilt the head down to look at their binoculars and then try to find the object through the binoculars. So obviously the technique is getting a technique. If you see something that's interesting, look at the object and move the binoculars into your eyes. Alright, you'd be surprised how people say, well, where is it? Where is it? Well, if you don't know where you're looking at, then and you have to move the pair of binoculars, then you're going to lose sight of it. But again, decent pair. I mean, you do get different brands, but most brands, most brands that they're all very good quality anyway. Most of them are really good quality binoculars. But ideal sizes for astronomy is what you're really looking at is you can't go wrong with a pair of 8x40s or 8x50s or 7x50s, 10x50s, and at the most, if you really, I mean, you can get something like 12x60s or something, but you don't really need massive binoculars, to be honest with you, for astronomy. You just need something that's you can handle it by hand easily, and light as well. Alright, and the thing is, you don't really need big binoculars unless you're a keen enthusiast, and basically if you want to purely use binoculars for stargazing and all that, then yeah, then get a pair of giant binoculars. Another thing they need to highlight is with binoculars is if you want to, for the moon and planets, they're more likely you'll be able to find them easily, alright, just by looking at the sky, because they're usually the brightest objects in the sky, and it's not very hard to find them. But the one tip is, if you're going to use the binoculars for looking at deep sky objects which are really faint, and then you're going to need something like a detailed star map or an atlas. Now, for myself, I use, and I recommend this before, is get yourself one of these. This is basically a planisphere, right? This will give you a date and time of the sky you're looking at, right, at the current sky you're looking at, and you basically just move the dial across to match the time you're in, and then the date and what month, and it'll show you the current sky you're looking at. Now, you do get different grades of planispheres, alright, and I've got this one here, which is a Philips one. The trouble is though, one thing I have noticed, that the Philips is a bit too basic. This is only going to show you the brightest stars. Now, it's great for star hopping and all that, but if it's only going to show you the major stars, you're not going to find anything on DSOs or the faint objects. But with this one here, right, despite not as clearly defined, you need to look at, with this one is it does actually show you some of the deep sky objects like M31 or M33 and so forth. So get a much detailed planisphere that's going to show you some of the DSOs in the sky, but and that usually works quite well. All right, and but you can actually buy, you know, planispheres are good, and they're the quick sort of access and quick sort of visual sort of aid. But you can't go wrong if you get some of the books. Now get some of the books that you can buy from astronomical shops that usually shows you most of you know, that can be viewed through binoculars. Now get those kind of books that will are more or less for binocular use. All right, because they're going to tell you with much more detailed maps, and because you have got limited aperture and all that, is that you're going to need you're basically going to be restricted to some of the brighter deep sky objects. All right, so but it's not going to show you some of the really faint ones, because you're going to need a telescope for things like that. But again, go for a detailed like a detailed map, all right, and you can find your way through there as well. They're great for just visual use only, right? You cannot use it for astrophotography or basically imaging or something like that. They're just purely for visual. Although some people have actually taken images through a pair of binoculars, all right, believe it or not, and usually fit a webcam or something like that. You can do it, or fit a digital camera, but usually you'll probably have to mount it on a tripod or something like that. And really not, people have actually imaged, you know, with a webcam or just a digital camera, just a quick snap or two of the moon or maybe the planets or something, and get reasonably good images, believe it or not. But the thing is, you're all really restricted for astro imaging. You're not going to be able to astro image through a pair of binoculars, really. They're purely all for visual use. But the good thing overall, you know, binoculars actually serve quite well for astronomy. Now, for everyone that's the first time buyer and all that, or just starting out, is despite buying a cheap telescope that's going to of poor quality, you can't go wrong with a pair of decent binoculars, right? And then if you don't go into the subject or the hobby that well, and you're not really interested anymore, then you can always use a pair of binoculars for something else, all right? And the thing is, my recommendation is that if you're on a low budget or you're limited budget, all right, and you're keen to take astronomy, then you cannot go wrong. The best equipment you can buy is a pair of binoculars, right, and it serves its purpose no end. So again, this is the end of my tutorial, and thanks for watching, and clear skies.